Hello, my name is Fairy Belle. I'm a book fairy, and today I'm going to read you a story called The Precious Plum, written and illustrated by Jennifer Horn. The Precious Plum. Once upon a time, there was a baker who lived in a little wagon at the edge of the village. She had the most extraordinary garden anyone had ever seen. Not only were there elderberries, parsnips, and cloves amongst her seedlings, there were also fruits of the soul that grew, such as courage, peace, and faith. When she planted them, they grew healthy and strong into good ingredients ready for baking. The people of the village were familiar with the baker's fantastic garden of ingredients and often asked her to plant a seed or two in their own gardens. In the orphanage playground, she planted hope. Outside the factory, she planted joy. In the gardens of the cemetery, she was always careful to pull out the weeds of regret and plant fulfillment in their place. No matter what or where she planted, they always grew into a scrumptious, healthy, fruitful plant. One day, her good friend came to ask advice over a problem of the heart. He was actually the milliner's son from the village, but the baker had always felt in her heart of hearts he was a true gentleman. She offered him her most secret recipe for wisdom cake, so secret that she was the only person alive who knew it by heart. But, being a gentleman, he declined to take such a privilege from her and merely helped himself to some bread and butter cupcakes. The baker could see he needed her help more than he would say. So in the dark of night, she stole into the garden of the milliner's son to plant a precious plum seed of wisdom right in the middle. In the darkness, she lost hold of her apron and all the weight within it tumbled out. "I must have dropped the precious plum," she whispered, hoping she had not dropped anything else into his garden. And so she covered the seed deep and safe in the cool soil. Now that her good deed was done, the baker felt it was time for her to travel the land to perhaps make her culinary fortune or meet a prince. And so she packed up her seedlings, harnessed her dappled mare, and set off across the land in her wagon, making sure she left reserve stock for everyone's garden while she was gone. She had packed everything, but couldn't help but think she was leaving something behind. She checked and checked again. The baker travelled far and wide, planting scrumptiously good things and meeting many princes. They were all very handsome, good-natured, and completely won over with her fabulous baked goods. But every time she wanted to give one her heart, she felt something was missing. "Oh, where could I have left it?" she lamented, more so at the inconvenience than anything else. As she was leaving a little town by the forest, one of the most recently rejected princes galloped up from behind on his brumby. "Oh dear," she told herself, I will have to be more frank with the fellow. And to the prince, I have made my intentions clear, have I not? I know, he replied, trying not to look too disgruntled. But this letter just arrived for you, and it looks rather important. The letter was from the milliner's son, scrawled across an old bit of patterned fabric. Something was growing in his garden at an extraordinary rate, and could she please come home quickly? He didn't know what to do. Goodness, she murmured, thinking of the plum. My fruit has never done that before. And so she left the lands of far and wide and journeyed in haste back to her village. On arrival, it was very clear that he did indeed need her help. The millinery house was now balancing precariously on top of an overgrown mass of whatever it had been that she had planted there. It certainly wasn't a plum. Oh, drat it, the milliner's son declared, not minding his gentlemanly language in the panic state he was in. That house is my inheritance. As she looked at the little house with its tiny crooked windows and hodgepodge roof, held captive by its garden, she decided there was no choice but to uproot the plant she had once buried in secret. So, taking a stalk each, the baker and the gentleman set about pulling up the plant. They pulled and pulled, even taking time to stop for afternoon tea. But by dusk, they were ready to give their last try of the day. And with a final tremendous heave, up came the seed. It was like no other seed the baker had planted. Oh, figs and fiddlesticks, she gasped as she suddenly recognized it to be her heart. I've been looking for that everywhere. I am sorry. Not at all, the gentleman said. On the contrary, I'm glad that while you were off in the dangerous far and wide, it was safe and sound under my house. The poor little house, though, had not fared so well. It lay fallen on its side, bits of bruised leaves and confused caterpillars all around it. Oh, drat, the gentleman said again, more to his broken inheritance than the baker herself. I'm sorry I can't offer you and your heart a place to live now. But you can, the baker replied. We shall live in it sideways. I don't need a right way up home, but I will need a garden. And with that, she showed the milliner's son, who really was a true gentleman, how to plant his heart by hers, purposefully this time. The seasons passed, and the little sideways house became very glad that it was not right way up like everyone else's, and its tale travelled across the land over campfire and written letter. For in the garden, where long ago the two seeds had become one, stood a magnificent tree that bore the most precious fruit the world had ever seen. And that's the end of the story. Thank you very much for listening. I love fairy tales, don't you? And this one was really special. Do you like digging in the garden? Me too. Maybe you could go and plant something outside now and watch it grow. Thank you very much for believing in me. And don't forget that I believe in you too.